Do you like beer? Do you like bread? Do you like beer and bread? Do you like two-player games that have to do with beer and bread? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you are in exactly the right spot. Welcome back to Dead Boy Gaming, folks, and this is your boy Pete. And today we're going to be going over this little two-player game I got at Gen Con a couple years ago called Beer and Bread. It is a set collection game that plays, I don't know, probably about 30, 40 or so minutes, and yeah, why don't we check it out? In Beer and Bread, the players take the role of competing towns who are looking forward to the once-a-year event where they find out once and for all who can make the best beer and the best bread. The game will take place over 6 rounds. At the end of 6 rounds, the player with the most points wins. There's a little bit of a twist, but we will wait for that till the end, shall we? Before we get started with the cards themselves and the gameplay, I wanted to bring up a little bit of note about the rounds. The rounds will alternate between green seasons and red seasons. They stand for essentially bountiful and not bountiful. So the rules are going to be slightly different in each. So during green seasons, there are more crops out on the field. And during gameplay, the players will alternate cards in between them each time they play one. I'll get to that when we get to gameplay. In the red seasons, there are fewer crops out there to be had, so that's one main thing. And the players also do not switch cards back and forth, so that's big. That was a note on the seasons, but let's get to gameplay, shall we? The game begins with both players drawing 5 cards, and they're going to alternate playing cards. Playing cards, you're going to have a couple of different options, and that's the main mechanic of the game. First thing that you can do when you play a card is you can cash it in for the resources shown at the top. So for here, I could get a wood and I think that's a hops. This one I could turn in for a grain and a hops, what have you. So nice and easy. That's the main way that you're going to be getting resources to make your beer and your bread. The second thing that you can do is make a beer or a bread. And in that case, you're going to be paying the cost here in the middle. It'll tell you which is which on the picture. The colors are actually different on the back as well. I have sleeves, so I took them off for the purposes of this, but they are different colors, so you know which is which. So yeah, you can play them for resources, you can play them for the beer or the bread. Last thing you can do is each card has an ability that you can play it beneath your board for a secondary ability. So here's a good example of one. Oh, let's wait for it to get in focus here. You're always able to collect grain even if there's none left on the wheat field. I guess it's wheat, never mind, what does it matter? It's yellow. Here's another one. Let's wait for it to get in focus. Whenever you collect that, store an additional one. Yeah, so on and so forth. So that's how it would do. So for this turn, let's say I grab a wood and I grab a hops. I'll set that to the side. I get a green and I get a wood from the supply or from the board. And also important to note is that your resources are capped by the room that you have. So that is so that's important. So that could come up. Here we would have turn 2 with the 4 cards that we would have gotten passed by our opponent. In the early game, it seems pretty important to start grabbing resources. So I mean, in this case, I think we'll go ahead and we'll take the I don't know. We'll take the green. We'll take the 2 blues, I guess. Sounds good. Also important during these first rounds that any cards that you use for resources, you set them aside. They're going to be coming back to your hand at the end of the round. So important to note. Let's say here on round 3, we get these passed back. And let's take a look here, for example. See some of the resources that we've already gotten. And so this is a card that we might want to keep an eye on to make. So how do we make sure that we keep it? We make sure to use it for resources. So we'll have a wood and a wheat. We will set that aside. And we've spent most of the first round getting ready to make stuff, but I mean, that seems about par for the course for a game like this. Playing beer and playing bread cards are just as easy as paying for them. So in this case, we have one early, we've got our wood, we've got our yellow, we've got our green, and then you will put it in the appropriate spot. There is a brewery and there is a bakery. Important here is that you, under most circumstances, you only have room for one. If you need something else, you can clean to make room. That's one of the things that you can do when you play something underneath the board. That also counts as a swipe, so that will take the card off the board. So nice and easy. That's basically how round one would work. Red seasons work a little bit differently than green seasons, and how I mentioned earlier. There are a lot fewer pieces on the board. So here we'd only have 5 of those. We'd only have 4 of these available, for instance. Only 4 of these. Only 4 of these. So yeah, pickings are slim, material-wise. You're also going to get back any cards that you used for resources from the turn before, so I already reloaded those. And then, yeah, you'll just go back and forth playing cards. First player will go to the person with the fewest resources, play cards, move. And yeah, that's pretty much how Beer and Bread plays. At the end of 6 rounds, and a cute little innovation that Beer and Bread introduces is that the lowest score of your beer or your bread is your final score. So your lower score of the two is compared to the opponent's lower of the two. Now there are a bunch of different modifiers that you can find for your score that are part of those cards that you can lay under the table, but this isn't a playthrough, so I figured I'd just give the brief overview. So, what do I think? Is this a game that I would recommend? Absolutely freaking yes. This is one of my favorite 2-player games. The only reason I haven't placed it in like the top tier, and it is top 10 for me easily, is just that I think the board is a tiny little bit awkward. I mean, it's perfect. It does what it does, but I mean, I don't know. I almost wonder if the board's needed. It does give a lot of flavor. I do enjoy it. I'm super nitpicking, but yeah, I mean, the gameplay is light enough. There's enough meat on the bone. It does seem as though you really want to increase your storage space anytime you can, though, so that feels a little bit like an autoplay. But doesn't worry, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's got a fairly small table footprint, so you can bring it out. Yeah, so all in all, I'd give it like an 8.5 out of 10. And that's Beer and Bread, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to those of you who stuck it out. Like, subscribe. Check out some of my other videos. I'm growing my content, and I'd love to have you here with me. So I appreciate you. Have a good rest of your day, and bye.